I said, it's a good day to be Indigenous. I introduced myself as in my traditional way. My name is Skaloos. My English name is Ruben George. Really thankful for being here. One thing that I think of in the work that I do is it's so important. The driving force behind what we do is our culture and our spirituality. I was 5 months ago. I was the director of community development. I overseen all the education, employment, and training, and social development programs, and everything under that for the youth, elders, and the daycare, and the family programs. What I try to do is, no matter what anyone wanted to incorporate it into our programming, I made sure that the driving force behind what we did is our culture and spirituality. That's the driving force behind what we do. 5 months ago, I was asked to switch over and to go on a year leave as director from my nation to be full-time manager of co-manager of our Kinder Morgan campaign to stop them, and it's called Sacred Trust. So there's 5 points, or 4 points that us as Tsleil-Waututh of what we like to work with. The first one is that you can't put a price on the sacred. As a relative said, that what's going on with Alberta tar sands, they're getting over 1 billion barrels of oil out of there a day. It takes 2 tons of dirt to get 1 barrel of oil. It takes 3.5 barrels of water to get 1 barrel. If they're getting a million barrels out a day, and you times that by 100, you do the math, and that's how much money they're making a day. And it's ruining our environment. Consistently, because of the efforts by First Nations, and you talked about poverty. It is true that we are a lot of our people, like myself, grew up in poverty. And some of our people are still like that. They head along the pipeline. So when these oil companies come along and offer millions of dollars and they say, help us out of poverty, you think that anybody would jump at that. But we don't, as Indigenous people. Over 200 nations signed the Fraser Declaration saying no. Because you can't put a price on the sacred. Because how we feel and where our ceremonies come from is from our land and from our water. You can't put a price on that. It's the sacredness of our land that we won't compromise about. It is who we are. We are called the Tsleil-Waututh people. That means people, the inland people, the water. My lineage comes from the ocean. You can't put a price on that. And number 2 is simple. We oppose. We oppose to the continued destruction of our lands and of our waters. I work with 4 other people. We work with a PR firm. We hired a couple other people, and we have 22 people in our treaty department that are focusing on this. These are all our own funds that we're saying no to. We're saying no because again, we can't put a price on the sacred. Number 3, what we believe in is partnerships. Ben was saying that the environmentalists of the Vancouver community wanted to meet, and Uncle Phil suggested that we pray together. So we prayed together for 2 months before we met, to help our relatives to understand where we're coming from as Indigenous people of the land. I'm really happy to say Ben's our fireman at our sweat. He's been doing it for over a year now, and it's something that he adopted and loved. And everybody who we try to work with, we try to share the same things with them. This is where we come from. As you see, my relative came up here and he sang a song to welcome us all to our territory. And that's an important thing. Us as Indigenous people, we have to learn how to pray together before we're going to work with one another. That's so important. We have to put aside our differences and start working together. I lit a smudge with a lighter, and somebody came along and said, hey, my grandma said, you have to use matches. And I said, oh, my grandma said make fire. But those little differences seem to put enough differences between us that it matters and prevents us from praying with one another, and that's not right. We have to pray together so we can continue to work with one another. So building partnerships in the way we see fit, that we don't compromise our culture and our spirituality, and that's why we're saying no to these tar sands and tankers and pipelines. We're not compromising our beliefs because that's where we come from. So it's great that we have our relatives that are coming, that are joining us and saying no also. And number 4, what we really believe in is there are alternatives. The Canadian government is giving $1.6 billion a year in subsidies to fossil fuel companies. A year. If we took that money and directed it towards green energy, we can make a difference. We can make a huge difference. Why do they need subsidies like that anyway when these oil companies are making over $100 million a day? Why do we need to continue our government to give them subsidies? We as people have to make those changes. And there are alternatives. Before Tsleil-Waututh got involved with the tar sands and the tankers and the pipelines and say, no, we already been stewards of our land. For thousands of years we've been stewards. You know, it was a tragic thing for our people who had been living off the salmon for thousands of years when our fishermen went out to the river and the elders called them and said, come back. There's not enough fish for you to go fishing this year. That's devastating to our culture and to our spirituality, but we have to think of our future generations. And that's why we're taking this action now. We're thinking of our future generations. Not just my children, not just your children of who you care for and each and every one of you, but because Kinder Morgan, like I've been saying, are blind because of their greed and because of lack of connection to the land and to the water, because they don't believe that they don't come from the earth, that they don't want to stand up for and make changes for their future generations. We're not going to forget them because they're human beings as well. And it is our teaching when they come into our territory. We'll do our best to take care of everybody. And we'll do our best to take care of Kinder Morgan's children because they're not going to. We'll do the best to take care of Kinder Morgan's children because they're not going to cry and because they don't care. We care for them because they're human beings and we love them too. And you know, I talked about spirituality. I talked about our connection to the land. And I taught to walk a good path. I see some of my elders here who teach me. And they come to my ceremony, they come to my sweat. I'm so thankful. Every week we have elders that come to the sweat and come ceremony with us. And they teach me to walk in a good way. What also means too, it's like I'm not going to sit back and be a holy person how I'm supposed to be. I'm going to go by our cultural and spiritual values, and I'm going to protect. And the only thing that I know about my namesake of Skaloos, who carried the name 200 years ago, was the last relative that I had that carried that name, was 200 years ago. What I know about him is he was a spiritual leader and a warrior. And that's what I encourage us all to be, is to be warriors, to stand up against these lies and the destruction that Kinder Morgan is causing, and all these other oil companies are causing. The traveling that I've been doing lately into Rio and into different places, Italy, and Ben and I went to an indigenous gathering down in Kansas, and we went to our Sundance in South Dakota. We stopped off in Montana. It's wherever we go, it's the same thing. It's indigenous people of the world that are standing up against fossil fuels. It's indigenous people of the world that are standing up to say no more, that there is a better way, that it's not too late, that we can create change. We can create change. And one thing that I do believe, and a mentor of ours, Ben and I, Van Jones, he would talk about the change has happened before. The civil rights movement was a movement of a nation of people that wanted to stand up to create change. They wanted to stand up to create change for equality for women and people of color and people of minorities. They wanted equality. So a whole country, a whole nation of people stood up to help people and save people from other race of people. And I think we need to do that again. But this time, who we're helping ourselves against is ourselves. We have to look inward and look at the changes that need to happen. We have to let our government know as a one heart, as a one mind, as a one voice, as a one spirit, that we can stand together and we can say no. That we can stop the $1.6 billion subsidies that our government's given into these fossil fuels and change it for a better way for us. So I'm really thankful for this day. I'm really thankful my elders wanted to build a sweat, so I woke up early this morning and I had a beautiful day, went through the bushes, and you talked about, that's my mom. My mom, my chief said, we're going to make her a t-shirt that says, warrior up on the front, and then on the back we're going to say, because said. So we're going to do that, and they wanted that. They wanted that today. But another thing that we're doing tonight is we're going to honor one of our relatives, who is an Indigenous person of the world, is Rex Wheeler. My mom wanted to adopt him into our family, so we're going to put on a name for him tonight. But that's the big thing and the big key of what I was talking about. Us as spiritual leaders and spiritual people have to put aside our differences and pray together so we can work with one another. I really believe in that. We don't have to be spread out, and we can come together, one heart, one mind, one spirit. All my relations,